Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, House of Havoc proudly presents their podcast tag team champions of the world. The big guy, Chris Johansson, the muskrat Alicino, and as always, I'm that J-I-double-M-Y, the death of Kayfabe.
Professional wrestling is an ever-changing and ever-evolving business where 1 week a wrestler can be on top of the world and in a matter of weeks can be forgotten. One thing that remains the same in professional wrestling is the fact that past, present, and future are always on display at the same time. This was never more evident than when four men came together to form Evolution. A legend with his confidence lost, a cocky young superstar determined to derail his career before it even gets started, an injury-prone monster looking to find his way in an unfamiliar business, the veteran who was in his prime of his career looking to make an impact in an ever-changing landscape. What do these four men have in common? Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Dave Batista, and Triple H formed Evolution, a faction where past, present, and future came together to dominate a WWE without The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is the death of Kayfabe's take on one of the most important factions in the last 20 years.
So let's be honest for a second. I'm wearing Saatchi di Dinero. This hoodie, this has got to be the most comfortable thing that I've worn in a while. So if you're going to wear this, make sure you wear it on Monday. Why?
Because it's motivated, money-making Monday morning, baby.
And if it's not Monday, you better make sure it's on a Friday.
It's Fresh Cut Friday on Fresh Fit Friday.
And we got codes for the holiday season. What are they?
The code is HAVOC, HAVOC, at checkout for 10% off your total purchase. That's SaatchiDiDinero.com. Brand new release, brand new arrivals, the new Saatchi hoodie. It's got the logo embossed on the hood. They're available in clay and gray blue. You want to go get those fast.
Come on, go get it now.
Saatchi di Dinero, always authentic, never counterfeit.
Evolution. What a stable. Like a complete pillar to what we know now as these factions. Combined build weight of 1,027 pounds. The muscle in Batista and Triple H with the young looks of Randy Orton and the wisdom of Ric Flair, right? That's what we'll call it. They debuted January 20th, 2003, and they officially disbanded October 3rd of 2005. And they made appearances in 2007 and 2014, wrestling. They had a little run in 2014. And then they made an appearance in 2018 just to kind of be there. They didn't wrestle. So I'll kick it to you first, Whitey. Give me the whole beginning of Evolution, the idea behind it, and the member that never was.
So Evolution was obviously in the brainchild of Triple H. He went to Vince McMahon, and at the time he had a tremendous amount of sway with Vince because The Rock and Austin, the two top guys, were gone. So obviously that top spot needed to be occupied by someone, and who better than Triple H at the time? You know, since 1995, one of the most reliable performers in the company. Barring his injuries, he was always, just the top of the card. So at the time, Triple H, as we all know, was a huge fan of Ric Flair. And Ric Flair at the time really had just kind of lost his confidence. He wanted to come out wrestling in a T-shirt, and Triple H wanted to restore that confidence in the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So they became partners in a way on September 22nd of 2002. Like Ric Flair came out to help Triple H beat Rob Van Dam. And from that point on, Ric Flair would walk Triple H down to the ring. So that was the beginning stages of formation. And because the company had lost The Rock, because they had lost Stone Cold Steve Austin, there needed to be new stars made. And Triple H, with his confidence, said, I'm going to take two guys and I'm going to make them. And from day one, like everyone else, he saw that Randy Orton had it. The guy was, we can go on and on and
Second
on.
generation, third generation, right?
Third generation. And just the guy who was just giving all the tools in the world. He looks great. He can talk. He can wrestle. He's an athlete. I mean, you name it, he had it. So Triple H handpicked Randy Orton to be the newest member of what was eventually going to become Evolution. It wasn't called Evolution at that point, but also at that time, they felt like Vince and them thought they were going to transition Rick into more of a managerial role. So they had this guy Batista, who was the Deacon Batista. He was with Devon Dudley, kind of floundering around.
Yeah, floundering. Absolutely.
I mean, they had, and he came up. Batista came up in that phenomenal OVW class, and the head of the OVW at the time was Jim Cornette. And he told Batista, "You're going to work like a monster. You sidewalk slam, body slams. You're not going to sell a bunch. We're going to call you Leviathan. You're going to come out with chains around your neck." So Vince liked the look of this guy with chains around his neck. So why not attach those chains to a donation box and put him with the Deacon Batista, not the Deacon, with Reverend Devon.
Let's take a character that's named Leviathan, which is essentially a
demon from the deep.
Demon, and let's take him and do a 180. Now he's a preacher, or he's with the preacher. And he's
well, I think
it's just Vince. Too many cooks in the kitchen.
I
Exactly.
think from backstage perspective, I think Triple H knew that he wasn't going to be a main event player with that character, with that role.
No,
you were never going to get over as a main event guy.
he's just he would have been another A-Train, another
Right.
Just a big guy
So-
that not that I'm shitting on A-Train. A-Train was a good worker
And a phenomenal trainer.
Phenomenal coach.
Yeah.
phenomenal coach, but the guy, they never gave him the right character, whether it was what was
Tensai.
Tensai or
Albert.
A-Train or Albert. I mean, they just Prince Albert. They never knew what to do with the guy.
Right.
And Triple H saw the potential of Batista because of how athletic he was, because of his look. He had the mic skills. I mean, the guy would walk into a room and every girl is looking at this guy. I mean, he was everything that you could want in a wrestler.
So from a backstage perspective, right? Let's not talk about on screen at all right now. They're forming the group. Orton set in stone, Flair set in stone, obviously Triple H, the leader, set in stone. The fourth member wasn't always Batista.
No, it was at the beginning. It was. What happened was they formed the group. They, who was it? Orton came out with, because Flair was with Triple H and Batista.
Mhm.
Then they came out. They were Triple H was in a program with Scott Steiner, so they were having a beatdown on Scott Steiner. Here comes Randy Orton, who at the time was just coming back from his shoulder injury. He had popped his shoulder out because Orton used to do these like 8-foot drop kick. I mean, not 8 foot, but I mean they were super high drop kicks. He was getting off the ground so high. Popped his shoulder out. And they had him come on TV every week because they didn't want him to go out of the like.
And he was talking the injury,
and he was right,
giving recovery time.
So he was doing it from a face perspective, not from a heel perspective. So they thought he was going to be a face, but because the crowd hated it, now he's a heel. So here's Scott Steiner getting beat up. Here comes Orton. The crowd kind of thinks, oh, maybe he's going to jump in there and try to be this young guy helping them. Turns out he's with them. So that's when the faction was formed.
Mm-hmm.
Not too long after that, both him and Batista and Randy Orton, I should say, both got hurt in the match with the Dudley Boys. Bubba Ray Dudley landed on Randy's ankle awkwardly, shattered his ankle. Batista tore his tricep. So they were always going to keep, because Orton was going to come back faster from the injury. It was going to take Batista a little bit longer. So they were going to get rid of Batista and bring in Mark Jindrak. So Jindrak, which they actually filmed vignettes with Jindrak in the black suit walking with the Evolution. And Triple H just saw that Randy Orton and Mark Jindrak, even though they were friends, they were riding partners, they didn't mesh well because they were bad influences on one another.
Right, immature.
They were
and
two young guys
leading each other down the wrong path.
Randy was 21 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And Jindrak, I think, was 23 or 24.
Well, so Orton's 24 when he wins the belt at that summer.
That's 3 years ago. Yeah.
This
so-
was 3 years.
He's about 21. Yeah.
21. And Jindrak's, I think 23, 24. Two really good-looking young guys
Oh,
going
of course,
out,
yeah.
talking shit, chasing after girls, doing
Orton, famous for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Orton, menace. That
Right.
guy was
Yeah.
a menace.
Right. So you have these two guys, and Triple H said, listen, you could do anything you want to do in this business. You have all the twos in the world, but you got to get away from this guy. So ultimately, they decided that Jindrak was not, he was not mature enough to be a member of this group. Because
Right.
this was supposed to be a well-dressed, essentially a new Four Horsemen.
Right. And it's actually funny because he tweeted that he wasn't mature enough
Right.
to be that fourth guy. And at that time, they made the right decision by going to Batista.
Right.
So, Jim, tell us about now the on-screen formation of Evolution and why they tried to model after like the Four Horsemen so much. And there was groups before that tried and had failed. And I think this was the first super successful.
So I don't know how many there were before that really tried to do the actual Four Horsemen gimmick, but since Evolution, they tried it in TNA with Ric Flair, AJ Styles, and Frankie Kazarian, called Fortune. there's obviously the 4 horsewomen of NXT,
Mm-hmm.
and we just read about another little small promotion. They did the Extreme Horsemen with C.W. Anderson. Is that
C.W. Anderson's, I think, a Jersey wrestler. So
Yeah.
I think he came in at the tail end of ECW, but he's very popular. I go to a lot of toy shows, and he's always doing autographs at the toy shows. He's
really? So
you know,
local.
like a local legend kind
Yeah.
of deal.
And then obviously, most recently, we see it with the Pinnacle,
Right.
even though they're like kind of it's weird what the Pinnacle's doing.
well, there's
anyway-
there's 4 guys in the Pinnacle because Wardlow, yes, he's a wrestler, but he's not. He's more of a MJF's heavy than he is a wrestler.
Right, of course.
Now they're, I guess, kind of transferring Spears into that because the thing is you have the DNA of the Horseman with Tully. Anytime you put a member of the Horseman, it's going to be the Horseman, but it's not the Horseman.
Right.
Because there's 2 schools of thought when it comes to the Horseman. The original 4, which was Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, with J.J. Dillon as the manager. That's the original 4 Horsemen. Then the second incarnation of the 4 Horsemen, I believe it was Luger. Tully had gotten himself in trouble with drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Then Luger came in. And then it was Barry Windham. So that Barry Windham Horseman, that was Flair, Tully, Arn, Flair, Tully, Arn, and Barry Windham. Or the original 4. Those are basically considered the 4
Yeah,
Horsemen.
Barry Windham is always usually considered in that conversation.
Right. I mean, depends on how old the person you talk to is. You know what I mean?
Who's in the Hall of
Right.
Fame? Barry Windham.
That's a
Barry
good question. What 4 are in the Hall of Fame? Yeah.
It's Barry Windham.
Barry Windham, Arn Anderson.
That's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I think in Meltzer's Hall of Fame and most of the other ones, I think it's Ole.
All right. So they form on screen, right? They get their name evolution. Like, take us through that night
That night,
or that time
Well, so,
period, the beginning.
January 20th, 2003, Orton joins in on the attack on Steiner. 2 weeks later, so I guess that's early December, Monday Night Raw is where they get the naming of Evolution, and obviously Hunter's the lead guy. They're all in suits for this promo, I believe, right?
Yes.
Right.
Which, are they kind of responsible for bringing suits back to TV wrestling, like, in a cool way? Because, like,
Well,
back in the day, everyone, if you weren't in your ring gear, you were in a suit. And
Right.
now Wardlow's big on it.
yeah.
He said he tried out for WWE, not to get too far. He went to go try off WWE before AEW. He said he's the only guy who showed up in a suit.
Right.
And I think he left the tryout. I don't even think he finished because
Yeah.
he was like, "No, I'm the only wrestler in the room.
Right.
These guys are all failed football players and whatever else.
Yep.
And like they don't have enough respect for the business to show up in a suit.
Right.
Well, that's Flair's big thing was always the suit. You know what I mean?
Because you're a businessman.
And Flair lived the 4 Horsemen gimmick, and really Evolution kind of lived that same gimmick. He's like
100%.
Hunter was
Look
like
good, feel good, play good.
right, because Randy Orton was showing up to the arenas in like track pants and a hoodie, and Triple H is like, no, come correct. If you're gonna come here, come correct. Put a suit on, look professional, look the part. It's not just about being the part; it's about looking the part also.
100%. Yeah.
So they cut the promo about we're Evolution and we represent the evolution of professional wrestling. Again, 2002, 2003, a time where Vince wasn't afraid of the word or the phrase professional wrestling.
Right.
Still, even though he wanted it to be sports entertainment, obviously Rick represents the past, Hunter himself represents the present, and these 2 young cats, Randy Orton and Dave Batista, represent the future, which they were right. They turned out to be 100% right.
Of
course, yeah.
2 major pillars of the Ruthless Aggression era and then even transferring into the PG era. Dave Batista, Randy Orton, and John Cena carried the early part of the PG era.
Now let me. I know this is maybe a question for more towards the end, but Randy Orton, Batista don't get in there. Number one, does the faction work with any other 2 wrestlers? Like if you're in that time period, what other 2 wrestlers would you be able to put in that position? Like Cena doesn't fit that mold.
No.
He would have though.
No.
If you could have brought Cena up, because at this point Cena is just up as the prototype and failing, right? So if you would have just brought him straight in as like it's me, it's Orton, it's Rick, me meaning Hunter, and say Batista's not in, or you wanted to bring him in, then he got hurt. You could just bring in. No one knows who John Cena is yet. If you just you don't bring him up, he came up like earlier that year, right? As the prototype.
Well, he came. That was like right after the Vince Ruthless Aggression promo, where Cena came in, and then Kurt Angle said, "What quality do you think that you have?"
Right.
And that's
Like
when
ruthless. But you just my point. You just don't bring him on TV because the majority of people aren't looking to find OVW taped television because like you could go find it on some of the other bullshit channels, their tape, because they would tape TV.
Right.
I didn't watch it. Did you watch
No.
OVW? No one knew.
I didn't even know it existed
didn't
until
know-
after.
Up until like almost college, high school. Up until like high school, I didn't even like. You show up on WWE TV, now you're a pro wrestler. Nothing outside of WWE TV even registered in the general masses' head. So if you just bring him up, you never call him the fucking prototype. We're calling him John Cena.
Well, they didn't call him the prototype. They never called his name was.
He was only the prototype.
He was the prototype in OVW.
in
OVW, yeah.
But I'm saying
When he came up, he was John Cena.
He was just John Cena. He was
Yeah.
no.
If you would have just brought him up and just don't let him, let him hide under the wing and under the mic skills of the other three of them, and you let him just go do his thing, I think he probably, now it's hard to say because Cena's one of the greatest ever. I think his career wouldn't have been any worse, but it would have been a hotter start.
Well,
Because he almost failed.
Let me ask this
prototype.
Let me ask this question a different way. Say you take Orton and Batista out, and you insert Cena and Lesnar. So it's now because the four guys that all came up through OVW. Do you take if you put those two guys as opposed to Orton and Batista? Does it work?
No, I think Orton needs to be in there.
No, I think Orton absolutely 100%
Batista
needs
is
to be in there.
disposable. Even when they did the 2014, when they came back, I didn't need Dave there. Go make Guardians 3. Like I didn't need Dave to be there then.
Right. But that's just Vince's
Now at that time, and we're gonna get into it because you, Whitey, say that the best part of Evolution was, well, you could just let's get into it now. Was Batista and Triple H's feud when they were breaking up? That's the best moment, you're saying?
Well, I think that feud was their best feud.
Right. So Batista had a large role in Evolution. You know what I mean?
You could say because like when you look back at that brief run that they had from end of 2002 to like the beginning of 2005, who do you picture as like their main opponents? Like when you think of their main opponents, you think of like the feuds within themselves.
When I think of Evolution, you don't think so much about their feuds externally. I think it's all about the internal feuds.
Well, that's my point.
I think their best feud is Randy Orton. But some of their good feuds externally, they had the good match, the 3-on-2 handicap match at WrestleMania 20. They had a good feud with Rock and Sock, and they had a good feud against Vince for a little bit there.
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
they kind of feuded with Vince
because it always to me, a lot of it felt like whoever Triple H is feuding with, that's who Evolution is feuding with.
Yeah,
like Batista and Ric Flair are going to go out and win the tag titles, and Orton's going to win the IC title, but they weren't having great. Orton and RVD had like a nice little month-long promo, but like they there wasn't like this long-term, like when you think of the Shield, like you think of like, oh, they feuded with DX, they feuded with Evolution, the Wyatt family, like the New Day, they had like good feuds. But with Evolution, it was just more about Triple H is the champ. These are the guys that are all kind of seconding him, and they're helping him out. But once Orton kind of broke away, and once Batista kind of broke away, that's when everything became interesting. That's when the feud.
Well, these guys became main event players,
right?
I think the story with Evolution is always going to be about the infighting, about what they used themselves to jump off. Like Batista 100%. And Randy Orton used Hunter as a launching point to jump off. Because even so, we'll get into that later about the most iconic moment in Evolution, in my opinion. But Orton breaks up, right? He's got the belt. In those weeks following him getting kicked out and him going on his own as the champ, not getting over as a babyface, kind of struggling a little bit to carry the show as the champ, and then he goes into this long feud with Hunter that lasts all the way till Royal Rumble of 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he finds his footing and he kind of starts to become the legend killer,
right?
Orton. So I would say he probably, they all needed it and they all were better off for it.
Right.
Did anyone they work with outside of the faction benefit from them?
No.
But it wasn't about others. It was about getting Rick back to his old self, and it was about getting these two young studs. We need top tier main event level talent now, because like you said, Rock and Stone Cold gone.
Right.
So there's
within an 18-month time span, you've made Randy Orton a main event player.
Right.
Within another 10 months, you've made Batista a main event player.
Mm-hmm. So there's two schools of thought, right? And you mentioned previously that the reign of terror that Triple H was on, where he was going over on everybody, you were being buried by him, basically, right? Well, that still was happening as Evolution was formed, right? So you take it from two ways. You say, yes, the goal backstage was to create these two stars, and they did just that. But the downside, the con to it, everybody said, what people say is that they buried how many people along the way. So yes, they created these two stars, and yes, they hung around for years. So the question is, was it a good overall when you look back on it now, right? Forget what they did when they were together, but the overall lasting impact, was it more of a good thing or more of a bad thing? Did they bury too much talent on the way to this?
I'll answer that question with a question. Did the clique bury too much? Are we better off or worse off as in the company of professional wrestling and the whole landscape for having the clique? Are we better off or worse off? Because they buried everybody. They ruined a lot of careers. They ruined careers on people they just didn't get along with personally. They were not great.
Yeah, Shane Douglas. Look what they did to Shane Douglas.
Yeah, they ruined Shane Douglas.
Yeah, but you have to break. You have to break this
Hunter down. Hunter
was
a part of the clique, and Hunter just as bad as Shawn, just as bad as Nash and Diesel, just as bad as X-Pac was one of the worst of them. But he wanted everyone under his thumb. Hunter at this point, if he didn't like you personally, he wasn't fucking putting his shoulders down for you.
So to me, it sounds like you're taking a very negative aspect.
No,
on
but I just think it's a known fact that in this business, people get the people who find the most success. Hulk, even to a degree, Hulk fucking wasn't doing the job or favors for anybody. He wouldn't come in and do a favor for someone.
Yeah, but
the landscape of the business is better off for having Hulk. It's better off for the clique. It's better off for the NWO, and it's better off for Evolution. So did some guys, their lives might have gotten ruined, their careers might have gotten ruined. Yeah, and that sucks.
So on record, this Evolution was a great thing.
Great
for
thing
WWE.
for professional wrestling.
Whitey.
Well, you could look at it. The easiest way is you already got Batista in the Hall of Fame. So through Evolution, guy got himself to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Randy Orton is a no doubter.
No doubt Hall of Famer. Probably twice. Well, twice over. Yeah.
They're all going to go in a second time.
Right. So
Orton's
for Rick's third.
So
yeah.
I think at the time, without the other top guys, you had Taker on the other channel, you had Edge, Guerrero, Benoit, all on the other channel, Mysterio, Angle, all on the other channel, Lesnar on the other channel. They were the most interesting part of Raw in that time period because you see these two guys evolving into becoming top flight superstars. You have Triple H in the reign of terror. But again, it's like who else would you have put the title on at that point besides Triple H?
Oh, I agree. So my question to you is, because we were 10, was it cool? Were they cool to like, or did you hate them? So when you watched them, you were like, yeah, they're, or did you have an overwhelming hate for these guys, or were you like, wow, these guys are badass, I like it? Because for me, our comparison is the Shield. I love the Shield. In their top heel moments, I was all about it.
All right, so as a huge action figure guy, when Randy Orton and Dave Batista had their debut style figures, like Batista's debut figure came in the same set as a Scott Steiner figure, and Batista was in his Evolution garb. Randy Orton's first figure was like that, he had I don't know what hairstyle it is, where the hair came down over on his forehead, and it was like
the Caesar.
Not really a Caesar, but it was like overgrown a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was Shaggy.
Shaggy. Yeah, I want to say Shaggy. Yeah,
he looked shaggy. But then when his Evolution figure came out, that was an incredibly hard figure to track down. So people wanted those 4 guys in that Evolution garb in an action figure. I wanted those figures as Evolution. Like I had the Randy Orton debut figure, but I didn't want that figure anymore. I wanted the Evolution Randy Orton because that's how I pictured Randy Orton. So.
The red trunks.
Was it cool? Yeah, they were cool. They had an awesome theme song.
Were they must-watch TV? Like when you turned on Raw, were you like, okay?
It was the most interesting thing on Raw.
Right.
Was I turning on Raw to see Evolution? Not necessarily.
Like, I'll put it this way. One of the biggest guys in this aspect in, like, my history of watching pro wrestling. When the lights went off and there was time for the Fireflies and Bray Wyatt had the stick in his hand.
Different.
I would tell people to shut up.
Yeah.
Like, we'd be watching Monday Night Raw with friends of ours, like in college, that didn't really watch wrestling. They were just there to hang. And they'd be telling stories about, like, the Met game from earlier. Yo, when Bray Wyatt has the stick, you shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, there was none of that with Evolution. Like I said, they were the best thing on Raw at that time period. But was it like I had to stop everything I was doing because, Triple H and Evolution are coming out on TV?
Right.
No.
Okay. All right. So here's my next question. The best wrestler, worker, we'll call, at that time in the stable. Who was the most eye-popping worker? For me, it was probably still Triple H. At that time, they were too young. If you had asked me at the very end of it, So there's like you could break it down into 2 periods of when it started and when it ended. I'll say Triple H through and through. It's the easy answer. Jim, what do you got?
Obviously, by the start, it's Triple H, and Triple H doesn't lose anything by the end of this, but he's already at his probably max potential peak. He's at the peak or approaching the peak for his individual singles career.
Oh, he's probably
by the end of this. By the time it's all said and done, and they close the book on this feud where he goes over Orton at Rumble 2005, Randy Orton starts as like probably a mid-carder at best, and by the time it's over, he's main eventing every other show for the next 10 years. So I gotta go Randy. Randy gained the most out of Evolution.
I could argue that Batista gained the most because coming out of WrestleMania 21, Batista's the champ. The top 2 guys in the company at that point are John Cena and Dave Batista. Randy Orton, they didn't have the confidence in Orton coming out of Evolution that they thought they would. Everybody knew Orton was going to eventually be the guy.
The problem with that is the face thing didn't work. The baby face thing didn't work.
No.
He's a better heel than he is a face.
Right. And I
100%.
think it took them a little while to figure that out. But you got to remember, he went into, he didn't have a title match at WrestleMania, but he went into WrestleMania against The Undertaker, and started that run of Undertaker's crazy streak matches.
Right.
So, but then you look at Batista, and Batista's, alongside Cena, the top 2 guys in the company because they're the 2 champions.
Well, Whitey's perspective is pretty good because think of it this way. In my opinion, no matter what, Orton would have been some way he would have found his way to be that guy,
yes,
right?
Eventually.
And I feel the same way about like Lesnar and not really so much Cena because we know that he was on the verge of being cut and then whatever happened. But we knew those guys were going to be those guys. Batista, I feel like he had the most to gain because I don't know if he got stuck in if they chose who's the Mark Jindrak over Batista, I don't know if Batista would have ever been something. He might have just been,
it helped
that guy.
Here's what I can say to that is he might not have been something, but not without them throwing everything against a wall. Because if there's one thing Vince loves, it's size. And Dave Batista, 6'5", 270 of him with 10% body fat,
right. But Triple H changed his work. Triple H changed his moveset. Right? The whole Evolution gimmick.
If they didn't go to Evolution, he would. If say Jindrak came in and he went out and mended his injuries and then came back and now we're gonna rewrite Batista, get him back on the show, and he's not in Evolution. They would not have brought him back. He wouldn't have come back. The Deacon thing wasn't working. They would have repackaged him. They would have tried something new. They would have like they did with Bo Dallas. How many times did they try to make Bo Dallas work?
Yeah, but it didn't work.
It didn't work for Bo Dallas. But this is what I'm saying. He would have gotten his opportunities, and if Dave is the wrestler we think Dave is, he would have made it work another way.
I think more so for Orton than Batista, though.
Orton would have just made it work no matter what.
Orton was like the can't miss. I think Batista, through Evolution, gained the most.
Yeah, I agree.
Orton was going to make it no matter what. Triple H was Triple H. Ric Flair was Ric Flair. But Batista got the most out of Evolution.
Triple H did this thing where he always stayed relevant, regardless of he had a title or not. He always stayed like main eventing, no matter what. It didn't have to involve a title. It could have involved a major feud, a faction, a tag team. It didn't matter. He was always there. And that's,
it's this thing I'm holding right here, the microphone. Your ability to talk on the mic is always going to have the most influence on your ability to stay relevant. And
look at Enzo.
Yeah.
That's a prime example. Guy who can't wrestle a lick.
For a lick, yeah.
But he's over like Rover because he can talk his ass off.
Yeah. And that's what it is now. But he's not even, where is he now? He's not even.
They're on the
independent scene, yeah. Because he's. Cass is
on Impact.
Cass is on Impact now.
I don't know if they had the pay-per-view or not, but there was going to be a triple threat. It was Matt Cardona, Moose, who's the champ, and he's calling himself W. Morrissey.
Yeah.
Wow.
His name, William Morrissey. That's his real name.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Bill
so we follow the feud. We follow the timeline for Evolution. They get together. They start wreaking havoc. They basically, we can say they dominated, right? And like you said, Whitey, they basically follow the feuds of Triple H.
Yep.
Well,
in that time period, he had a run with Scott Steiner, squashed him. Bill Goldberg, squashed him. RVD, squashed him. Kane, squashed him.
And they were interfering in these matches? Like, are
For the
they?
most
They're
part.
heavily involved.
The one that he didn't have he had Flair, but he didn't have the rest of them was with Booker T, and Booker T almost beat him at WrestleMania for the title. I think Booker should have went over in that match, but that's a whole other story for another time.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a feud that was in.
Right. So now, take us to the pay-per-view where they all become champion. Because at some point, I guess a year down the line,
Armageddon 2003. Now you might know this better than me, so I don't know if you want to take this over, but I know the end of the show, Rick and Dave standing tall as tag champs, Hunter standing tall as with Big Gold,
Mm-hmm.
Randy Orton standing tall with the IC belt.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell me who went in with the belts already, who they wrestled.
the
all
Dudley
that.
Boys went in with the tag team titles.
The one other thing I'd say about that, every single one of those matches, those 3 matches, the other 2 or 3 that weren't involved interfered. They all helped each other out
Yes.
on that card.
Van Dam
Was the IC
was the IC. The Dudley Boys were the
Tag champs.
tag champs, and he beat Goldberg, right, to
Goldberg.
retain.
Well, it was a triple threat, Kane and Goldberg.
Yeah, Kane. Yeah.
Because that was like when they did the whole
So,
the Katie Vick thing.
Hunter is the only one who went in
With gold.
with the belt.
With gold.
No, I believe Goldberg had the belt.
So Hunter didn't even have the belt. They all went in, no belt, came out with all the gold.
All the gold. Yep.
And there's the famous picture of them standing tall with all the gold at the end
Yep.
of the show.
And that's probably the peak, right? That's
It's gotta be. I
probably
mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
gotta
one of the things that you remember the most of them standing up on the top of the apron.
To this day, every time we see some of these big stables that we like, the first thing we said about the Pinnacle? Get them all of the belts.
Yep.
They kind of did it with the Elite,
Yeah,
to
a
an
little
extent.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
but it was more really Kenny's belt collector gimmick.
Right.
So I'll go to you for this because, like I said, we were young. So now they're all champ, and then there's the involvement with Eugene, right?
Yeah.
And
But that's kind of after the fact. That's more like.
well, that's the beginning of the end, kind of, right?
Well, Orton was out at that point, so Eugene came after Orton was out already. So it was Batista, Triple H, and Flair.
See, now I thought that Eugene costed him the title, which set up Orton versus.
Actually, I have the timeline right here. So, hold on one sec. Where am I? So, I don't have the Eugene part of it, but I think Eugene helped Batista get into the Rumble or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so
think so.
Triple H at Vengeance, Triple H is caught using Eugene. He causes Triple H to lose to Chris Benoit. On the same night, Edge defeats Orton to end the 7-month run at Intercontinental Championship. So now they're losing all the belts
Right.
together, right? But Orton's still involved now at this point,
Okay.
right?
So
That-
what's the timeline on this?
Right now, July 26, 2004, on an episode of Raw,
Yeah,
this is
'cause
Triple H versus Benoit in the Iron Man match.
September of 03 is when Orton's out. No, sorry.
September of 04.
04 is
Right.
when Orton's
So
out.
they're still together at July 26th. Iron Man match happens. It is Triple H versus Benoit. And earlier in the night, Orton has already won the number 1 contendership
Okay.
match. So he's going to fight Triple H or Benoit, and Benoit wins.
Right.
And that sets up now basically the turning point in this whole thing. The next match is Orton Benoit.
Orton Benoit. Orton becomes then youngest world heavyweight champion of all
Right.
time.
Yep.
No, so we just discussed this. This is something that's going to be argued till the end of time. We just discussed it off air. Youngest world heavyweight championship, the WCW Big Gold, because SummerSlam 02, Brock Lesnar at 23 years and 100 and something days becomes the youngest undisputed champion of all time.
Right.
So Orton, even when he got that, that's just the classic Vince pumping accolades to make everyone sound
Yeah.
better kind of a thing.
Because
It's really meaningless.
didn't after the Unforgiven pay-per-view, that's when Bischoff just awarded Triple H the title.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he just like gave it to him, right?
I don't like Eugene's involvement because I feel like it takes away from like a Benoit Triple H feud going over clean works the same for me. You know, I don't know if it needs that. I don't know if Triple H needs that protection at the time when they were dominating. But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
Here's the thing. Eugene, I never understood. He people say he was over. He was never over with me. I thought it was like very distasteful to have a special needs person. You know, and again, this is a different time.
This isn't even just us saying it in 2021. At the time, I thought it was distasteful.
Yeah,
we
that-
were only 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. When we did
Yeah.
this.
It never made sense to me. It never, like, why are you putting this guy into the main event picture? You know, apparently he was in OVW with the Cena, Orton, Batista class, and he was a phenomenal wrestler that they just didn't know what to do with. And Vince was like, "Oh, we're gonna slap a special needs person thing on him." And
It's the old box of gimmicks, dude.
Right.
That's craziness. So that happens. It's not about Eugene this episode. It's about Evolution. So
No, I'm just saying,
but it's weird. It is weird.
It didn't fit within because Evolution should have been like the Horsemen, very precise, very in-ring generals. All 4 of them are going to wrestle a phenomenal match. Like that's what it should have been. But it was a lot of like as we would say, a lot of fuckery. You know what I mean? It's just,
right, 100%.
It was DX in suits.
Yeah.
It was DX. It was if DX was a series. They were doing the same DX shit, just without the crotch chops and the fun.
It wasn't sophomore
goofiness.
It wasn't sophomore humor at that point. It was more we're going to be serious, but we're going to
we're serious, lethal, like brooding businessmen.
So SummerSlam, now continuing the timeline, SummerSlam of 2004, it's Orton versus Benoit. Orton goes over. The following night on Raw, he defends. Well, he defends first. And he successfully defends against Benoit. And then my favorite moment, your favorite moment, or feud, or part of the whole Evolution thing was the breakup of Orton leaving. Talk us through it, Jim.
When I was going to list my best match for them is when I came to the conclusion that I don't know if there was a best Evolution match. Mainly that this is a 4-man stable and there were 2 singles competitors and a tag team. So like there's not many 4-man matches. But also just like I said, the best parts of Evolution were when they were fighting against each other. This is the most iconic moment of of Evolution for me. He defends, retains over Benoit. They come out, they're celebrating, they're having the coronation. He's up on Dave's shoulders, and they're all going nuts. And this is what you want to talk about lasting impact. Dave Batista got a taunt out of this for the rest of his career because he would do the thumbs up, thumbs down to fucking everybody.
Right.
So he's up there, he's holding the belt. Randy's, celebrating strong. Confetti's falling. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's confetti involved, right?
Yes.
I think the balloons, like
Confetti,
the balloons,
The whole 9.
Hunter looks at him and does he give him 1 or 2?
He's like this. He's giving him like the thumbs up, smiling, and then he turns that smile
the
upside
face
down to a frown, and then does the.
Is it just 1 thumb or does he have 2 up?
No, just 1.
He drops 1 for sure.
And then electric chair drop, beat the piss out of him, right? Did they all get their shit in after that?
Yeah.
Batista bomb. Pedigree, figure 4.
Figure 4, the whole 9. Beating him with a chair, beating him with the sledgehammer.
We're going off the air with Randy getting betrayed. That's how they went off the air, right?
Yeah. And then he lost the belt the next pay-per-view.
To Triple H.
Right.
After the whole backstage with Eric Bischoff at that time.
Well, the month that goes on, or maybe a little bit more than a month at this point. I don't know how their pay-per-view schedule worked, but the time between that.
Well, this was leading into the September pay-per-view. So whatever Backlash, maybe it was Backlash. No, not Backlash.
No.
What's after SummerSlam? Whichever the September pay-per-view.
No Mercy, maybe?
Could be.
What were they doing 12 a year at this point, though? That's my... Regardless.
Oh, it was probably Unforgiven.
The amount of time that goes on between the Monday Night Raw where he gets turned face, essentially, and him dropping the belt, it wasn't working for him as a face champion.
He wasn't believable as a face. He wasn't
the crowd. He wasn't getting the reactions he needed. And listen, you say youngest world heavyweight champion of all time. I think to the common folk and even to people like us, we don't really understand the pressure of being the champion. It's just a prop, right and wrong.
So
the whole direction of the show is based on your shoulders.
Well, here's the thing that never made sense is you're taking a guy who won the championship as a heel, got the championship by cheating to win, and now by kicking him out of the group, you're turning him face? What
does this go over better if they screw him? Benoit gets the belt back, and then Hunter plays the "you didn't deserve it," and like if they didn't have him retain and they just came out during the match and screw him over Benoit. And then do the assault. Now we don't get the great electric chair drop, thumbs up, thumbs down moment, but it might maybe correct the course.
I think if I was booking it
to turning him into a face,
2020 booking, you have Hunter and them stay with him till the pay-per-view. Hunter somehow gets a number 1 contendership, and goes into that pay-per-view. They're friends. They're going to shake hands before the match starts, and then Flair and Batista come out, screw him over to have Hunter win the title. That's how you turn him face. But having a guy who won the championship as a heel, and then all you're doing is kicking him out of the group, and then you're trying to turn him into a face.
36 hours later, he's a babyface.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with him dropping the belt 1 month into Triple H.
Well, the reason they did that is because it wasn't working.
Reign of Terror.
Right. And that's what we spoke about.
The whole thing is the reign of terror. You know what I mean? Because Vince, the one guy besides Taker that he had the absolute trust in was Hunter, because he had
Right.
been there since '95. So he went through the entire 83 weeks of getting their ass kicked by WCW, through the entire transition of buying WCW. I mean, he's been there for everything since 1995. So that's why you got to put the belt on.
Right.
What about you? Is thumbs up, thumbs down your most iconic moment or your favorite?
That's
moment,
definitely the best
Or your favorite match.
Best moment. Yeah.
You think of Evolution? Give me one moment or match you think of.
Well, that's
That's the
the
moment.
moment. That's 100% the moment. But I think their best feud is the Batista Triple H feud, because I think that had more of a build up. It worked better. You know, with the Batista picking, you know, winning the Rumble and then picking Triple H over JBL, because they had the whole like presentation,
Mm-hmm.
and then him doing the
Does.
double thumbs down to Triple H, because I think that had more more weight to it because of the Orton. So now the thumbs down becomes the symbol of, fuck you, Triple H. Now I'm turning on you because
Yeah, you did it to Randy. It was
So-
only a matter of time before you did it to
Right.
me too.
I'm
Right.
getting you before you get me.
So Elimination Chamber, 2005. The last three remaining: Orton, Batista, Triple H, inside the chamber.
This is at
What pay per view is this?
No
at?
Way Out or
This is,
Armageddon.
they believe it's No Way Out.
What month is it?
Oh,
It says right before New Year's resolution.
so it's
Or it's early 2005.
Oh, so this is after.
So
this
this
is
is
after the
probably-
breakup.
This is after Orton's breakup.
No, this is after Batista's breakup. Because New Year's Revolution 06 would have been leading into WrestleMania 22. Because 21 is where Batista beats Triple H.
Right.
So this is after that. So the Evolution is done at this point.
Okay.
That's just like a cool, like they were all together in the faction. Now they're all separate. They're not together.
Well, doesn't he win the Royal Rumble?
Batista wins the Royal Rumble 05.
So they're still together until the Royal Rumble.
06 Royal Rumble winner is 06. Oh, that would have been Mysterio, because that was right after Eddie died.
So here we go. So, like you said, he wins the Royal Rumble in an incredibly controversial Royal Rumble. Probably the most
That's when him
controversial,
and Cena go out at the same time,
right?
Well, the final two were supposed to be Batista and Cena, and
Which it was.
and and Batista was supposed to Batista bomb Cena and then toss him out to have just like a clean victory. Cena jumped too much on the power bomb, and Batista, with so much force picking up, they go backwards. They tilt over the top rope, and then Vince comes out to
Furious.
because they got to do something. What are you gonna do?
Vince is sitting at go and he's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, well, Vince,
Hit my music.
what are we gonna do? So that's when he was like, hit my music. He comes stomping out, and as he runs, he slides on the ring. He hits both kneecaps on the ring and effectively tears both quads off the bone.
And he's laying from the ground. And
Well, he tries to get up. If you
Oh,
watch
yeah,
it,
yeah, he
tries to get
falls-
up,
yeah, he
and
falls down.
back down. He's just like, oh fuck.
so Batista does eventually win it, like it was supposed to.
Well,
like
they
it was supposed to happen.
restarted with the last two guys.
Yeah. And now this is the real end, right? Basically.
Well, you want to talk about luck real quick? What would have happened had Cena, or Batista just hit the floor first, clearly, and then Cena hit second? Then they can't restart the match.
I guess.
Then you got to do what Vince does best, and you got to leave the night as Cena the winner, and you work it up some gaga where Dave either works himself into a triple threat, or you just have a title match where what's on the line is the number one contendership.
Because both guys ended up in the title matches anyway.
Yeah.
You would have had Cena pick JBL.
That's another way. You could have just had
And
Cena pick JBL.
You would have had to find a way to get him
you
into
have the pay-per-view between Rumble and Mania, which at that point would have been...
Before Rumble
it's Fastlane now. But,
well, there's two pay-per-views in between. There was
Mania and
I don't know which one it is, and then there's No Way Out was the one that used to be before the month before.
Yeah.
So usually,
So you would have just had another. You have Cena pick JBL, and then you just have another number one contender tournament, or like the 6-pack challenges they used to do. Something to get.
Yeah.
They would have figured out a way for sure. So I guess the second most iconic moment of Evolution, right? Which is amazing that they're both breakups, but it's when Batista on Raw chooses
the double thumbs down.
Double thumbs down, chooses to contract against Triple H instead of against JBL, and power bombs him when spine busters, right?
No, I think it's either power bomb
One of the two
through the table.
through the table, And that effectively sets up the feud and really the ending of
For
Evolution.
me, it's in order of of the most iconic, it's the Randy Orton exit. Number 2 is we're the evolution of professional wrestling the night they become Evolution, and then number 3 would be Batista making his contract choice.
Hard to argue.
So then they go on a big feud, right? Triple H loses at WrestleMania, and then then Batista defends it in Backlash, Vengeance, and Hell in a Cell. So the feud ends, and Triple H basically walks off into the sunset for, I think, 6 months, right? That's
Well,
what
then
it
they
was?
do DX, right? Then he does DX with Shawn.
Yeah, the rebirth, the 2005
The new-
rebirth.
the-
Yeah,
DX.
but he takes after Vengeance. I know he takes some time off for a few months.
Yeah, and then
And
they would
Well, he
come
was
back.
I think he was banged up at that
yeah,
point.
oh yeah, of course. I'm sure.
I mean, he had been running pretty hard for 3 years there as the top guy in the company.
Oh yeah.
Cena and Batista were now the new top guys, but he was the guy. Rock was in and out, Austin was in and out, Lesnar, was I'm gonna go play football now. I mean,
Minnesota Vikings, baby.
yeah, almost
Yeah.
made it too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Starting fights in practice.
He never played football and almost made that team, which
I know.
is insane. That's again.
Yeah,
for
but
another-
that's because he's
Yeah,
one of
also-
one.
Two-time national champion wrestler.
Yeah.
4-time All-American.
Yeah.
Special athlete.
But that's a one of one guy. You'll never see. I don't know if we'll ever see another guy like him. Honestly.
So what? They came back in 07 for a quick it was just
07 was a cup of
Like
tea.
a quick cup of coffee.
but then 14 was when they came back as Evolution.
14 sans Ric Flair. They come back as Evolution, and they're fucking with the Shield at that point.
because it's 3 on
right?
3.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of they had a nice
But
little
now
run.
that ultimately led us to the "Give Me What I Want," right? Which is an iconic
Yeah,
moment. The
yeah.
"Give Me What I Want," Hunter. That's a meme now. I mean, people know.
No, they had the Raw 25, and that's when the 4 of them came out, the original 4 members, and that's where the
That's 2018, right?
yeah, and that was the "You Never Beat Me at WrestleMania," Hunter, and then which led to the "Give Me What I Want,"
Yeah. So 2014 was the run with
the Shield.
the Shield,
The Shield.
which was
Solid,
pretty good stuff for 4 guys who are either out of the business. Oh, Orton was the only one.
That match that I believe, was that a Survivor Series? Not a Survivor Series match, but was that on a Survivor Series card whenever they did that 6-man tag? I mean, that's widely panned as one of the 5 best Shield matches ever.
Well, that's Seth diving off the entryway. Right?
Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
Extreme Rules, right?
6-man no hold bar elimination tag match at Payback. They did too as well.
No.
So that run, I don't really count towards their main run. I don't view that, that Evolution, that 2014 stuff as that. But effectively ending Evolution, everybody we all know what happens, right? Batista goes on and has his whole run, and same thing with Orton. And this is going to be a weird weighted question, right? Is Evolution a top 3 faction of all time?
No.
No.
All time, or WWE all time?
WWE
the answer's
all time.
no, regardless.
Well, WWE all time,
No.
but
No, WWE all time, I put them ahead of the Nation of Domination, but they're not better than the Shield. They're not better than DX,
Wow.
and they're not better than. They might be top 3.
They're not better than Shield. They're not better than DX. I mean,
I mean,
New
they're.
Day, not better than New Day.
that's highly debatable, though.
No,
But is
here's the thing.
Is New Day a 3-man tag team, or are they a faction?
They're a faction.
As a faction, they're not better than New Day.
They're a faction.
Now,
You want to talk about 3 guys that were about to get cut, and New Day saved their career. Those 3 guys are probably working in a gym. We might see them at NYWC. And
I'm going to tell you right now that
WWE,
WWE did not make New Day work. New Day made New Day
No,
work.
because they started with the preachers and
Right.
the heels and the
Right.
seriousness, and that was
And-
floundering too. And then I think it was Woods that they were like, listen, we're just going to do what we do, and it's going to work or it's not, but we're going out the way we want to.
Right.
And here we are now. King Woods, Big E, WWE champ, Kofi, 1-time WWE champ. Like,
I do think Evolution should be considered one of the top maybe 10, 15 factions of all time.
definitely.
Yeah, but that doesn't feel.
But they're not because they're at a very small. I mean, they're not the Horsemen, they're not the NWO, they're not DX. I think when you think factions, those are the 3 that come up into my mind. I think DX doesn't make, the Horsemen and the NWO for me
I was going to say the NWO, yeah.
are the top 2 factions of all time. But
I mean, look, take this with a grain of salt. Spirit Squad.
And I'm just gonna laugh, and that's your answer right there. No,
we
but
took it with a grain of salt.
I think for that 2-year run, they were awesome. It was the best thing on Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis. So that has to say something.
I just think when you look back at it and you take it from, I try to look at it from both perspectives, on screen and off screen. And I just think from an off screen perspective, there's not, in my, without really thinking about it, there's not many more groups that have produced 2 superstars out of it. You know what I mean? Like you got 2, and I know the Shield, you got 3. I understand that. And I'm not putting the Shield above or below. I'm saying I think the Shield are probably, they have to be top 3 in WWE. In WWE, they have to be. You produce You produce 3 no names into 3, lack of a better term, no names to 3 superstars, right?
Unless you were an indie super fan, you had no idea who anyone.
But mainstream media had no idea who any of these guys were, and they turned into superstars.
I think Evolution's legacy is important for the time period. That in the Ruthless Aggression era, they were one of the top acts in the company.
Mm-hmm.
But as an all-time faction, not one of the greatest of all time.
I agree.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I mean,
did you love them? Did you hate them? I asked Whitey, but did you love them? Did you hate them?
Loved them.
You loved them.
Loved them then, love them now. At the time that it was happening, I don't think I knew that Hunter was going to go on to be one of my favorite guys of all time. Now, I know when we did the list, he didn't crack my top 5, but he's right up. He's right there in the top 7.
A top 5 is,
He's in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, at that point, I don't think I realized he was one of my guys. But looking back on it now, he definitely was. Loved him then, love him now, loved their 2014 run. Loved it all.
Do you think that the way they structured the group, do you think that other factions have looked at it and kind of based off what they were doing off that? Do you think the Pinnacle do you think they're doing?
The Horseman gets thought before they do because they're essentially like a knockoff of the Horseman. So when people are thinking, they're not thinking oh, let me think of we're going to be a faction. Let me think of Evolution.
They go back to
they're good for what they were. That's what it is. It's
right.
For what it was for in the time period, it worked. You know what I mean? But they're not going to go down in my book. I'm not, this is just my opinion. I don't think they go down as one of the greatest factions of all time.
Right.
You say faction to me, I think NWO, I think DX, I think the 4 Horsemen. That's what I think of when I think of the faction warfare era, 1997, 1998, when you had DOA and the Ministry of Darkness and the Nation of Domination. And, I even think of the Heenan, it wasn't necessarily a faction, but Bobby the Brain Heenan was a manager of all these different guys. He had Ravishing Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Paul Warendorf, King Kong Bundy, Haku, Andre the Giant. I mean, that was a stable before there was a stable.
Why do you feel like WWE has moved? Because I feel like AEW has way more stables and factions and at least 3-man tags. Why do you feel like they moved away from that in WWE? Either of you?
I think individual IP. Individual T-shirt sales. I mean, it's one you want to build the IP first and then throw them in a faction. If anything, you don't want to sell Shield T-shirts. You want to sell Roman Reigns T-shirts, Seth Rollins T-shirts, Dean Ambrose T-shirts, and then also Shield T-shirts. It's all about.
So you think it's a money thing?
Yes. Yeah. With Vince, everything is about how much merch can we move because they're not making that much money. I mean, now with the Peacock deals and everything else, but largely they're not making a lot of their money on pay-per-view buys or TV deals. They're making their money on live events. Who's showing up to Monday Night Raw on a Wednesday at the house show and buying 3 T-shirts? That's where they're making their money.
Here's the thing. A faction only works as if they're all together all the time. You look at Best Friends, that's a faction. It's Chuck Taylor, it's Trent Beretta, it's Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, Chris Statlander, Rocky, Rocky Romero. They're all within that faction. But then when Orange Cassidy, 2 weeks ago, Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta are getting the shit beat at them by the, I don't know what they're calling themselves, but the Adam Cole clique and the Elite, where's the rest of the faction? If Evolution, if Ric Flair's getting beat up in a match,
they were there.
3 guys, all 3 other members of Evolution.
They played. Now I don't remember where that was, but at Daly's place, the locker room is a walk.
Okay.
It's like they've addressed that on why is it taking Jericho by Inner Circle and other
Yeah.
but they've addressed it before, like why did it take Jericho and Proud and Powerful so much time to get out here to help Sammy? Well, it's about a 15-minute run from the locker room to out there in Daly's place.
Yeah, but have them at Gorilla then.
Yeah, I agree.
If they're friends in storyline, then they should be there for them. Like,
I think part of that with the Inner Circle is Jericho wants Sammy to be Sammy. He doesn't want Sammy to be Jericho's boy, Sammy.
Right.
Which is smart. Jericho gets it.
Yeah.
But that's conversation for another day.
Right. No, but I'm just saying it's just factions are different. You know what I mean? So.
Right,
Yeah.
it's different.
Closing thoughts?
That's all I got.
I think Evolution. I think like what he said, they did what they had to do, and they for that time period they were good for that time period. And we talk about that, and we talk about the. Do you think 2014 it was forced? Like, do you think it was forced? Do you think that
Vince?
No,
This is going to be good shit.
No, I don't think that. I think they had all three guys there, and why not?
Made sense.
Yeah, I think I said I was done with it. The one thing I will say is, 2 guys got made from Evolution. So if nothing else, that was like the key.
if nothing else, they created 2 superstars, and that's kind of what you want to do for the business. They preached past, present, future, and it's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? So that's the closing argument. That's it.
Yeah. Brought to you by House of Havoc Podcasting, Tiger Pack Productions, Sachi Di Dinero, and Stay Thirsty Company. Peace out.